Hello there. You are watching and listening to another Scoutcast from FFScoutCast.co.uk. My name is John T.
My name's Andy.
My name's Az.
And my name's Peter.
Excellent. And we have a new face here. This is Peter. For those that don't know, Peter is one of the contributors on our site, but he also has quite an impressive season history in Fantasy Football Scout and in fantasy football. So this is his 12th season, and he is our career Hall of Fame #1. So at the end of last season, he was considered the best manager there's been. He's had top 300 finishes in his last 3 seasons. 3 other times he finished within the top 10,000. He's never finished outside the top 100,000. So Peter, welcome. How are you on this fine evening?
That's a lovely introduction. I have to say I'm making up for it this season. I'm just back from my works party. I've been drowning my sorrows after the season I've had so far. But no, it's lovely to be on. Thank you.
No, it's good to have you. And yes, we're going to be talking to you a bit later about your season, because it's a little bit different to the career we've just been reading out. Coming up in the show, we've got a bit of a counselling session. So a bit of a theme here for Peter and also for some of us as well, who haven't had a very good game week at all. We're also going to be looking for some cheap defenders, some new kids on the block there. David Silva, what's going on with him? He can't stop scoring. Versus Hazard. So a lot of people are wondering about which of those two to have. Kane again. We can never stop talking about him. And as usual, we'll look forward to the week ahead, the weekend's fixtures. So, I mean, first of all, we'll look at our game weeks, and I'm going to have to read out the top 2. The top 1 rather, is Granville. He's in a class of his own. He has promised to pop in. He's at a council meeting this evening, so he's promised to pop in, and because he's quite keen to brag about his score. He wildcarded. He got 62. Considering the average was 48, that's a great achievement. He got, amongst others, he got Son in, who once again scored. But he did get Kane in as well, which, considering he wasn't keen on Kane, quite surprised me. But he got David De Gea in goal, which a lot of people keep having a go at us for not going on about how brilliant David De Gea is. Well, Granville solved that. He's got him in. Masuaku also joined Otamendi, and he had Tarkowski in his back line. He also got Jesse Lingard in. He's one of his favourites as well. And he captained Salah, so we went a bit different. Didn't work out, but, 62. Next up is Andy. You got 58.
I did indeed. Yeah, everyone thinks it's my internet connection is why I've not been on, but it's just because I've been doing rubbish. But now I'm back towards the top. I thought I'd come on. I basically, obviously, Morata got injured last minute. I considered taking him out, but I just ended up doing the moves that I'd already decided for last week, which was Otamendi in and Calvert-Lewin for Nias and Daniels. Didn't really need to get Calvert-Lewin in, but once the Morata injury happened, then I went for it, especially because he was rising in price and I wouldn't have been able to afford that if I hadn't done it then. But yeah, it's really just my defence this week that did me well. I had Christensen, obviously got a bit of luck there because he went off 11 minutes to go. So I got the clean sheet ahead of any other Chelsea defenders. Otamendi straight in with a clean sheet. Maguire assist and a couple of bonus, and obviously the hero in goal. Forget David De Gea. I got Nick Pope. Who needs David De Gea for 1 point, whatever he is more, 1.3 I think. And then just Richarlison and Sterling really were the only other ones that did the business. But yeah, 58 was a decent week. Another captain fail. That's 4 in a row. I basically dodged Hazard and Kane's points for the last 4 weeks. So that's what's letting me down at the moment.
Well, you had a very similar game week to Mark, who can't be here because he's on the telly. He got 57. Same thing, Captain Kane, Christensen luck there, but he also got Pope and he had Tarkowski as well. So he had the Burnley double up there, and not so good. So myself, I had not as good. I got 43. So I rejigged my front line. I removed Morata. I decided I didn't want that amount of money on my bench, and I got rid of Murray as well. I thought he might be benched this time. He was indeed. And I put in Firmino, who I'm already regretting getting in. I've remembered why I hate owning him. He blanked. I got Calvert-Lewin, happy with him. And the previous week, I brought in John Joe Kenny. So I'm starting to load up on a bit of Everton there. Captain Kane. And the rough bit really was Ward injury. So I was looking at my guaranteed Burnley clean sheet. A lot of people, Stephen Ward owners like me, and off he goes hobbling off. And yeah, just knew they were going to get a clean sheet there. So 43, not great. Az, you're next.
It's not nice coming all the way down this list. I'm normally somewhere near the top.
It's been a while for you.
It has, I know. Yeah, it wasn't the best week for me. I got 44, but I took a 4-point hit. I kind of knew it was going to be a bit of a rough week because I took out Nias and Daniels for Masuaku, who I benched, and Calvert-Lewin because I thought he's going to start more games than Nias. So it was kind of a bit of a future planning hit. I had a good first day. I kind of went down to about 1,500, and then God, yesterday was just awful. Like, just none of my players did anything. And I think the worst part was Pascal Gross, who has been my hero so many times this season, comes off for 6 minutes, gets 1 point, and costs me Masuaku 6 points that are on the bench. That really hurt. So yeah, it wasn't the best week, but I think I'm in pretty good shape going forward. So I'm quite happy.
So Peter, you're next. Now this made people surprised. I built you up, and given that illustrious career, and yeah, you came in with 36 points, but that's after a double hit. So tell us about your game week. Tell us about your current rank now. A bit about your season so far as well.
If I start sobbing, my apologies. As you say, it's been a tricky season for me. Last year, I felt I had the Midas touch. This year, it's very much kind of Ozymandias. Everything I've built up falling apart, particularly with transfers. I just seem to make the wrong choices at the wrong times, which I know we all do from time to time, but consistently as if I'm trying to sabotage my team. So this week, on the face of it, quite good. I brought in Ogbonna and Kenny. Having said that, I was concerned about Foster being my only playing goalkeeper, so I brought in and played Speroni, so that added up to a -8-point hit. And of course, Foster, against all odds, kept a clean sheet, got 10 points. Meanwhile, Coutinho, who I'd brought in for Silva 2 or 3 weeks ago, banked, and obviously Silva did the business. And recently, if you look at the transfers I've made, certainly over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I brought in Moreno, who was probably injured. Ziegler, the day he got injured. I got rid of Holgate because he hadn't been playing, and he then that day started, and indeed started the next 4, hasn't missed a game, 3 clean sheets. And who else did I lose? I took out Scott Dan because he was being benched, and of course he came in again that game week after the injury to Sacco, scored. Could have had another one, at which point I think I'd have probably cried. So yeah, that's pretty much symptomatic
That's
of
the most
my
depressing
season.
thing I've heard.
It's
Thank you for that.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where you could see that they're not bad moves. Nothing you did there was wrong. Getting in Coutinho, for example, who was doing it really well, for Silva, who wasn't looking. He had good underlying stats, but he just wasn't scoring.
Well, I think the thing which with Silva, I probably gave up because of his price change, because the price change is going south and the other one going north. And I think I was influenced by that because I would have liked to have kept hold of him. But I did with I had Silva and Sterling. I got rid of Sterling because I didn't think he'd play, and he scored. And then so I swapped Sterling in for Silva, and Silva scored the following week. So I don't really want to go there. That was that was a disaster.
And I think what the one I like, I mean, I say I like, it's like kind of, we get bits from a sitcom. The bit I liked was, but like the bit I did think was quite good, and if it happened to me, I'd have had to have laughed. Is the bit where you've got Ziegler in for Dan. Ziegler gets sent off, and then Dan comes on and then scores, which was really unexpected. But that is, there's no way that's skill or lack of skill. That is just dumb luck. And
I mean, I brought in Dan because I saw the goal threat, and he was dropped immediately. And then the moment I got rid of him, literally that day, he came in and scored. So there you go. That's your luck, when
well, I think Az hopefully is going to make you feel better now, because I hope so. He has got some. We're going to go over the rough with the smooth, and Az has got some nice rough game weeks to amuse you.
Yeah, hopefully this will cheer you up a bit, Peter. So, I mean, there's lots of people who took out Silva. I think quite a few people made the move of Silva to Hazard, who probably blanked this week. Really good underlying stats, playing really well, winning man of the match, but just isn't translating it to fantasy points. And also don't captain him when Andy captains him, because Andy always likes to miss those. So that's a good bit of advice. Shagua scored 34. Got a 4.9 million game week rank, dropped 500,000 places. Sané, Niasse, Morata, Ward, Kane, captaincy, Ali. I mean, Ali was, you know, potentially a really good option against Brighton and just happened to get benched. Hazard is a FPL legend. That's an ironic name. He scored 25. He, like myself and Peter, both brought Coutinho in, probably with the last couple of games in mind. Obviously, has done nothing. As for Laqueta, he had, who denied a clean sheet. Christensen owners, I mean, you are really, really jammy. Yeah. Also, Hazard's for legend had Kane, Hazard, Morata, went from 300,000 to 900,000. I mean, that is just awful, isn't it? Because to go from 900,000 to 300,000, you've got to get an absolutely massive rank. It just shows how easy it is to drop places. It's really difficult. And I think the big one that a lot of people are also facing this week was going out of the cup, the FPL official cup, to ghost teams and dead teams. I went out of the cup to someone who took an 8-point hit, bought in Ibrahimovic, and beat me because Harry Winks got that assist against Brighton in like the last
That
minute.
Is the magic of the cup, right there.
Incredible.
That's the magic of the FPL Cup.
The FPL Cup is match of the day's dream. This is when Yeovil beat Manchester United. This is Hereford smashing Chelsea. This happens all the time. Yeah. And there's one hit. One of part of our regular on Fantasy Football Scout, Tinkerman. He was saying he went out of the cup to a ghost team with just 4 players. So his 11 couldn't match.
That's impressive to me.
The team that is effectively
we only need 4 men. Yeah.
Effectively a dead team with 4 dead people in it.
I'll tell you what it is. Every time this cup rolls around, I swear you go out to ghost teams who always have their vice captain on De Gea or one of these premium goalkeepers, and they always get like double-digit points. And it's always enough to knock people out. It didn't happen to me, but there's so many people I've seen who've said, "Oh, Morata captain," and they got De Gea's like 22 points as captain. And
I've seen so many with Aguero captain, De Gea vice captain, and Aguero gets 90 bench, but he never shows up, and De Gea always gets those doubles. It's really frustrating. But now to depress us all, we've got some smooths as well. A couple of smooths there for you, Az.
Yep. So Darth Kurd, he swapped Ryan and Daniels out for De Gea and Kenny, which is probably about a 16 point swing, which is pretty tasty. Witty Pun scored 32 from just his defence, which is better than some of the roughs got in their whole team. Christensen got the clean sheet. Pope, Maguire, who got the assist. Monreal. I mean, Andy, you got a clean sweep of defensive points as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Pretty much the same players.
Yeah, I think that's happened like once to me. I always end up losing them. So yeah, some nice smooths, but it wasn't really a very smooth week for the community. I don't think. I think a lot of people were quite disappointed with.
I think it was the difference was some of those defenders. So you get some of the Arsenal defenders in, moved quick on some of the West Ham, Everton, and of course Pope. I think Pope was the big Pope and De Gea. If you have one of those two, and a lot of people would have one of them, you're fine. So yeah, on to the community question. So we've got the first question is quite related to for those who've had a pretty bad game week.
Yeah, so I almost sound a bit like not a Granville counsellor, but a psychology counsellor when I say to Peter and the rest of you, how do you motivate yourself to keep going when every decision you make seems to turn out wrong for no reason?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question from Fosi there. So, I mean, we have to go to Peter first for this because of your game week and others. So how do you motivate yourself to carry on?
Game week, game month, game season, where do you stop? Thank you for that. I mean, the more I've thought about this one, the sort of sadder I've got. But I think you've got to remember it is fun. And we are all addicts as well. So, you have a bad week and you think, well, I'm going to plan for next week and I'm going to get a good score next week. I think I can understand being difficult to carry on. I know I've heard all sorts of horror stories of people just, ditching their team or making 40 changes because they've had enough. I can't imagine ever doing that. I mean, I'm having easily the worst season I've ever had. But you just want to do well the following week and you look forward to, the next wild card or you look forward to the next bench boost. And, you think, well, I've planned to bring in these players for the following fixtures, for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So I am going to have a good week next week. But yeah, it is fun. Sometimes I think you do need to walk away from the screen and just, go back to that real world for a little bit and, have a bit of a break. But I think we're all going to come back because we're addicts.
I mean, I've noticed, like, in terms of kind of tactics for dealing with it, because I had similar awful run last season. I had 3 sub-30 scores in a row, and it took me ages to recover. But one thing I tried to do was do something that you've been doing, I noticed recently, is you spend more hits. Some of the moves you make are a bit more risky. But do you think that's a viable tactic? I mean, it didn't work with me, but do you think it's going to work with you, or do you think you're going to essentially go a bit dullard?
I think one players I'm bringing in is one issue, but I think the key thing is that I looked at my team and I had 4 or 5 areas where I thought I need to change this, and I was thinking if I do this step by step, I'm going to be looking at a month of enforced transfers, which which are literally firefight, or which are certainly firefighting, and I'm not going to enjoy. So I thought if I make the changes now, I know it's going to hurt me in the short term, but at least it sets my team up. That was the theory. Enter, of course, Moreno, Ziegler, Morata, and co. But I think the reasoning behind it was sensible. And last season, when I was taking those hits, it was paying off. So it certainly can do. It is a sign of frustration. It is a sign that things aren't going well, but it can pay off.
Yeah, I noticed last season you took. How many hits did you take last season? Because it really worked for you then.
Gosh, I think I must have had easily 12, 13, 14 hits, I think, something like that. Yeah. And I set out this season deciding that I was going to play it differently tactically, and I wasn't going to take a single hit. And yeah, if you look at my history, you can see how that.
Because it's worked so badly for you in previous seasons, didn't it?
Well, it's an interesting comparison, isn't it? I mean, I do think that, I know there was a discussion on fantasy football last year about whether hits aren't punished enough, as in, the 4 point isn't enough, and whether it should be 5 or whatever. And I think certainly last season, jumping on bandwagons, taking hits, of course, it didn't always pay off, but I think it definitely it could reward you if you did take that step. So yeah, this season not so much.
So yeah, I mean, as you're having in contrast, a great season, but obviously, you've been playing this a long time. You've had bad weeks. So how do you recover from that? And do you try and spend your way out of it, or keep it calm?
Yeah, the problem is that when you're doing badly, you can just try and be too clever, can't you? And I think this is kind of the first season where I've actually had a good start, and I'm finding it quite easy in a way because I'm not overthinking things. I quite like my team. I'm not sort of poring over stats and watching games intently to see how people are doing. I'm just kind of waiting until Friday, seeing who I like the look of and kind of getting them in, and it's working. Whereas in previous seasons, I've had a bad week and then I've spent Monday, should be at work looking up stats. Tuesday should be working, watching Match of the Day on my phone, and it just builds up and up. And yeah, it's quite nice. But I mean, I've had some really rough periods. I mean, a couple of years ago, I think at Christmas I was ranked about 600,000, 700,000, something like that, and I got lucky with a couple of picks, but those picks could easily have dropped me down more. And you heard from the rough moves. I mean, someone dropping from 300k to 900k. I mean, that I hate to say, but that's a kind of a season defining week, isn't it? Because now you're struggling to even get back to the 300k where you were at before. So, and the trouble is around that zone as well, you're dealing with people who probably aren't playing as seriously. They've probably still got Lukaku, and they've probably still got all these players that were really good at the start. And then you're trying to find players who are, sort of in form now, and then those players start scoring again, and it doesn't affect you when you're in the top 10k because no one's got them. But it does affect you when you're in the top 900. So I
was going to say what you described there is exactly the position I found myself in last season, and it is difficult because it's not just that your rank is low; it's the people around you have just stopped playing. And so they've got all sorts, and it's quite depressing when you literally have. I was described last season these ghost ships sailing past me in the rankings, waving at me, skeletal hands waving at me, and that's what happens. And this week was a particularly bad week for that because most players in the top 10,000 example, Lukaku long gone. He's long gone. He was like the likes of Morata and Kane, etc., all coming in for Lukaku. These ghost teams, he was the captain of the ship, and then he comes with a goal. That's the end of it. And they've all got De Gea as well. Yeah, De Gea and Lukaku do well. You're sunk by the ghost ships. But I think my advice would be you get the kind of the highly owned players. You kind of stick with those. You don't try and take out Salah and get in Coutinho or something. You keep Salah and you keep some of the highly owned players. But then you play the fixtures and you look to see. So Watford have got a really nice run of games coming up.
Richarlison, Firmino if he gets his plays back, but maybe not. Chelsea have got an amazing run of fixtures, so load up on them, and you kind of try, and you don't go too different. You don't bring in like Willian and Pedro and people like that. You play it relatively safe, but you play the fixtures and you get in the highly owned players, and then you just gradually hope that you can sort of work your way.
No, that's good. Good advice. Now, Andy, you're an easygoing guy. How do you cope with a bad game week, and particularly kind of emotion as well? Because some people get quite distraught when they've had a bad game week. But how do you cope?
Oh, it's just a game, isn't it? We don't have to. Someone had to say it. No, I mean, how do you motivate someone? I don't know. That's up to them, I suppose, how they want to do it. I don't know if it's because I've just got older, but when I first started playing, I think this is like my 8th or 9th season now. Maybe not quite that many, but so I was a bit younger when I started. I used to make, like, I suppose, emotional transfers. So if I had a bad week, that was straight onto who's going, who's coming in, how many hits am I taking this week to fix my team. I don't tend to do that now. I tend to, if I have one of the things I like to do is get a bit of perspective, because the problem is, like, I play in a lot of leagues, like obviously the Fantasy Football Scout Mods and Cons League. There's loads of good managers in there. So what looks to be a bad week sometimes for me, because everyone else has got a good score. Like you guys, I've been checking your scores the last couple of weeks, and you've been nailing captains, so you've been beating me by quite a bit. But when I look at everyone else, I've not been doing so bad. And there's a tool called, I hope Mark doesn't mind me giving a bit of a plug, to the Gargatron. So that will tell you how far away you are from certain ranks or how far ahead you are. So, like right now, I'm ranked 80k. I'm as close to 5k as I am away from 500k. So the point splits is still quite close, I think. And 54 points is nothing. You could do that in a week or two. And if you have a really good captain or a captain that's out there or something. So I don't know how you tell someone not to worry about it. I just don't worry about it anymore. If I have a bad week, I'll try and leave it, like Az says, till the end of the week to make my transfer. I got really annoyed with Hazard recently because I kept swapping him from captain when he scored points and then captain when he didn't. So I was looking at getting rid of him, but realistically, that's not a luxury transfer I can make right now. I need to wait and see until I get Morata injured or Richarlison possibly out this week, and just kind of wait. So I like to get a bit of perspective, because sometimes we play in these leagues with very good managers, and what's actually happening around you isn't so bad. So that's tends what I do now.
No, that's good advice. I mean, the first thing I do, good or bad week, is I sort out my team for the next week. I just kind of rearrange it just in case something happens. The internet dies for a whole week or something, and I just get that in place, and that kind of helps. Mentally, it just helps you move on to the next game week. I must say, it was quite tricky last season because I'd never had so many. It was game week after game week was awful. And when you get into that, it kind of can breathe it. And the thing that I eventually stopped doing it was just, I actually just stopped making transfers. I just stopped doing things. I just did the basics, right? I'll captain Kane or, whoever it was, and not make any moves really, and then look at fixtures. And I think that's probably the best thing to do, is to kind of keep it quite calm in terms of kind of the tactics of it.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think there's definitely an argument for that. Certainly, recently, I think Top Marks put some information together on my last sort of 3 or 4 game week transfers, and I think they've cost me around 50 or 60 points overall. And the team really is no better than it was, but that's because, as I say, I'm frustrated and, perhaps make those emotional transfers when, as you say, just sitting tight and saying, look, you've got Silva for a reason, stick with him. You've got these players for a reason, stick with him and, let it play out. Give him a chance.
Yeah, and I think it's good. There's another one of our contributors, Top Marks, writes about the top 5 in the Hall of Fame, including yourself. And he has a bit in it about points made from immediate transfers or other points lost. And there's huge variety, really. There's some of every move has almost cost them 10 points a week. But then others within that, they're kind of sailing through that as well. You're actually not doing across the season that bad as you think. So it's just a bad run at the moment. But yeah, I mean, for me, my advice is always be really dull and boring and look at stats and those kind of things. But I think the best thing, and it's something that I know Jay, who is the current live Hall of Fame #1, always says, first thing to do is have a look at the season ticker, look at the next 6 fixtures, and then have a look at who's got easy fixtures and target players from those. And I think that's just the best advice, whether you're doing badly or good. And it just kind of puts it a bit into perspective. But anyway, it feels like a bit of a nice counselling session there.
Yeah.
I hope it's helped people, or perhaps made them feel worse. I don't know, but I hope it has helped. But so yeah, on to the next issue.
My one other thing on that is I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but what has killed my seasons in previous years has always been stubbornness. So take Peter's example of selling Silver. I just wouldn't want to get him back. I'd be like, no, I had him. He didn't do anything for me. I sold him.
Yeah.
I've got to keep faith in my Coutinho pick. I know Mark had it a few years ago because he when Leicester were doing really well, was it Mahrez he refused to buy, or
he refused to get Ramsey and
Yaya
Toure when the season, and he just could, because their underlying stats were basically a goal for their one shot each game, and he just refused to believe it would carry on.
Exactly. I've had it in the past with Drogba. I didn't want to get Drogba in, and I remember we started the season with a hat trick, and I just didn't get him because I didn't like Chelsea, and I just refused to get him in. And the trouble is, stubbornness can really put you on the back foot, because I know people who haven't got Salah because they just think they've missed the wave of his points and he's going to start blanking and Coutinho will match him. But really, sometimes you just gotta suck it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say Firmino's my one. He was part of my downfall last season, where I transferred him out for Lallana, who Lallana got injured within about a minute 10 minutes, and Firmino then went on to score a brace. After moving position, actually, within the match, because Lallana had gone out. And so that's, and sure enough, Firmino, I've got him in, and he's blanked again. So, yeah, he's definitely one of those players. But I've gone back to him, so I guess I'm not stubborn, just stupid, I guess. but yeah, anyway, let's move on. There's a couple of players that we mentioned already, Hazard and Silva. And I understand, Hazard, we've got some questions about these two.
Yeah, and I think it ties in quite nicely with the stubbornness point, because people are asking, is Hazard really a better option than some of the Man City midfielders? So a lot of people have moved Silva, Sterling, De Bruyne even out for Hazard, and he hasn't delivered in the last couple of games. He's very hit and miss. He's delivering 15 points or 2 points. So the captaincy is a bit. Do you really want to trust him with the captaincy when you don't really know what you're going to get from him? And it actually looks like Pep's got a kind of a relatively settled team now, and there isn't that much rotation going on. Okay, there was a bit of rotation midweek, but week to week, it seems to be the same core players playing. So is it better just to stick with one of those, or does Hazard offer that much more of an upside?
And I mean, I think there's one of the posters, Miyu Shagger, as well, said many of us were a bit quick to dismiss Silva as a great fantasy pick. So it goes back to that perhaps stubbornness as well. But do we have to now admit, for those that got rid or those who've never owned, that we just got it wrong and that he is the City asset to own? That's a good point. So, Peter, what's your attitude? Because he's somebody, I'm not sure which, so Silva's on your side. I don't know if Hazard is at the moment.
Incidentally, I have moved Silva on for Hazard, and absolutely I regret doing so, with the benefit of hindsight. I think you do have a 2 million odd saving if you go for Silva over Hazard, and that's not to be sniffed at. Hazard, historically we look at him and we say he's the main man. When he goes on these runs, he's unstoppable. And you look at the sort of galaxy of riches at City, and you say, well, Silva's just one of the moving parts there. But looking at the stats, looking at their scores, looking at the consistency, I think Silva is absolutely the man to go for. Where they're coming back to that stubbornness point, that means I'm bringing straight back in. I don't know, but I think Salah, Hazard, Silva as a main three in your midfield, you're not going to go wrong with. I was looking at the fixtures. I mean, we talked about the season ticket. Chelsea was one of the main reasons I got Hazard in, because obviously their run's fantastic. But then City have got a superb run coming up as well. Bournemouth, Newcastle, Palace, Watford, Newcastle, Liverpool. Okay, Liverpool are decent at home, but they actually are above Chelsea in that ticker. So both, if you have to choose, I guess you stick with the one you've got. But the 2 million saving does make a big difference, I think.
And Andy, what do you think? You've got Hazard, but not Silva, is that right? And plan is keep it that way?
Yeah, I got Hazard and Sterling. So I did look at changing Sterling to Sané on wildcard. Luckily, I didn't do that in the end. It worked out better to keep Sterling. Like, if you take him into isolation, then yes, right now Silva looks like a better option than Hazard, maybe just. But the problem is we don't have a wildcard every week. So I get the De Bruyne argument as well. De Bruyne's ticking over, but I'm never going to want De Bruyne when I can get Silva and Sterling for cheaper. And I think tripling on Man City midfielders, I don't necessarily want to do that right now. So I'm happy to keep Hazard, but I am looking at potential ways to get money to upgrade to have Silva as well. And I don't know if we're coming on to it later, but I think 3-5-2 for anyone that's moved early on that has probably made a good decision, because right now strikers just aren't looking that tempting. So yeah, I've got Sterling. I don't see any reason to get rid of him. He's ticked over all season. Yes, he's going to miss the odd game here or there. Who isn't from that team? I suppose you could say Silva and De Bruyne are not missing that many games, but Sterling's starting the majority of them, so I'm happy to keep him. But I think we've actually kind of because Chelsea's fixtures were so good, I think we kind of overlooked how good Man City's are. Like Peter just said, the one after Spurs, it's a great run. So it's one of the reasons I bought Otamendi in. So yeah, I'm basically looking at a way to get Silva right now. It's a bit knee-jerky, but I think you've said it plenty of times on the Scoutcast, his underlying stats have always been good, and now he's started converting. So if he can keep that up, then why wouldn't you want it? And he's dropped in price as well. He's only 8.2 million. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I transferred him out as well. I'm another one, but I transferred him out for Hazard when Hazard had that Newcastle game. So I got 15 points from Hazard. So I don't feel quite so bad. I've lost points, but I haven't lost a huge amount of points. Say, for example, someone had got Coutinho in the last couple of weeks, or even Hazard the last couple of weeks. So I know, so Peter will know about that. And
I had Hazard plus 15, but I know what you mean. Yeah,
well, that's fine. Yeah. But yeah, so some others, with getting that. But so Silva in the moment, lots of people want him. So he's the most transferred in. At the time of writing these notes, it was 131,000 new owners. But Hazard owners are staying strong. Now, there was just 17,000 transfers out. That's not many at all, really. And those making way, really, for Silva, it looks like it's Sané, who's being rotated much more. Richarlison, who's a big injury doubt. And, of course, Ramsey, who's definitely injured. So I think Hazard's... I was looking at the fixtures. They are both good. Chelsea and Man City are both good. But I was having a look at the underlying stats, really, because we know there's a price difference, okay? But actually, they're matching each other as well. So over the last 3 fixtures, which is when Silva's been on fire, the shots on target, pretty much the same. They've had the same number of chances. Baseline bonus is almost identical. Now, we know these two can rack up those baseline bonus there. Penalty area touches, again, almost identical. But Hazard actually impresses in some key areas, really. So he's had 13 shots to Silva's 8. So that suggests there that Silva may regress to the mean, and he's been overscoring, and Hazard has been underscoring. And shots in the box, 10 to Hazard, Silva's just 6 there. So there's a big difference there. So I had a look in terms of expected goals. Yeah, sure enough, Silva's been marginally overperforming and Hazard marginally underperforming. So, my verdict really is get both because they've both got great fixtures. Now, Peter mentioned earlier City's fixtures. With Chelsea, got Southampton coming up. Hazard looks a great captaincy pick this week. And then Everton away, Brighton at home, Stoke at home. Wow. And then Arsenal away. And we know what Chelsea can do to Arsenal on occasions. So I think there's some good set of fixtures there for both of them. And firstly, I don't regret getting Hazard in, but obviously I do regret moving Silva. I quite like him back, like Andy there. So I think, but yeah, Az, you got any final thoughts on these two?
Well, just we've mentioned the fixtures, which to me means that you just can't sell Hazard if you've got him. He has the potential in those games to go mad, and I think Morata being out of that last game really affected him, because there's a lot of excitement when these midfielders get promoted to these kind of false 9 roles. Everyone thinks, oh, they're playing as a striker, they're going to get loads of goals. But if you watch it, he creatively wise, he was just all out to set up the other players in that game. And there were times when you just wanted him to shoot or dribble past people. But he was always, the amount of times he found Willian, and he got the 2 goals. So it's a bit of a. When I see that there's no striker playing, I think actually these midfielders, they quite like someone like that, because they take a bit of the focus away from them, and they can shine a bit. So I'm really hoping Morata's back at the weekend, and if he's not, I probably won't captain him this week against Southampton. If Hazard's going to stay in that false 9, I'm not completely convinced yet, so I might go for someone else. But yeah, going forward, you've got the Man City fixtures are incredible. My question would be though, who do you pick? So I haven't got any Man City midfielders at the moment. Is it Silva or Sterling that you go for? Because to me, at the 8 million mark, those two are the standouts. And
I think if you don't have, I think Sterling above all is going to score more, and I think both of them are nailed currently, but we thought Sané was, and now he's been rotated. So the rotation will go in waves, but pretty much De Bruyne and Silva are playing every match that they're fit. So I think Silva is definitely the one, because the time I had him in my team was great, because he wasn't actually scoring. I mean, I think I got 1 goal out of him, but he was racking up all those assists. So he's, with those goal scoring feats, he's actually had 8 assists. I believe that's a league high at the moment. So this is what I think Silva's value is, ticking along nicely, getting somewhere between 5 to 10 points most weeks. And that's absolutely brilliant value for around 8 million. So I would probably recommend getting Silva. But I've got Sterling. He's not going anywhere, so I'd be looking at getting both, really. And we're lucky in a way with Jesus and Aguero, because of the rotation with them, because they're so expensive. Realistically, you can't have either of them, really. It's just simply too much. You cannot accept that level of rotation. I know Kane's got his own problems. We'll come to Kane in a bit, but imagine Kane being rotated with Llorente. No one would have Kane. There's just no point. But that's essentially what is happening at Man City. You've got 2 strikers and only one's playing, and that's not good. So,
and well, there is a comparison there as well, isn't there? Because when Eriksen and Ali were on fire, that was a potential replacement, if you like, for Kane, covering Kane, if we use that term. And now you can clearly see Sterling and Silva do cover Aguero, do cover Jesus. So, I don't think there's too many good striker options out there at the moment, but the value is in midfield,
Yeah, you're right. Moving on to defence. As we've got got a question or two about defence.
Yep. So Demel, who asks, there's lots of new 4.5 defenders emerging. Which do you prefer? Masuaku, who I bought in. If I'm pronouncing that right, I have no idea. Arthur. I'll call him Arthur. It's a lot easier.
Masuaku, it sounds good enough. I think.
Sounds good,
by
yeah.
By Scoutcast standards, that's absolutely
it's fluent. An improvement, definitely.
Fluent in West Hammies.
Andy Robertson, who's 4.9, but I think you're going to talk about his stats, John. They're really promising. Kenny, who for Everton, who looks an absolute steal, 4.3, 4.4. John and I bought him in a few weeks ago, and he's got us 2 clean sheets, I think, since we've.
I know, with John Joe Kenny hipsters, we got him in before.
Absolutely. And Demel also mentions Firmino, who I think was at fault for both of the goals for Palace. I haven't actually seen the match, but I heard some rumours that he came on for about 7 minutes, and it was his fault. They scored both goals. So yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to sort of start, or they're going to keep faith with Janmat.
So yeah, I mean, Andy, what are your thoughts on cheap defenders? Who have you got your eye on? Who have you just got in, and who would you recommend getting?
Yeah, I don't think I've really got anyone in mind that you've not already mentioned. So I mean, I've still got Duffy, and he's got 3 really nice home fixtures in the next 5. So I wouldn't forget too much about him. But yeah, the new kids on the bottom. I mean, Kenny looks great. The only reason I'm not necessarily going to get him is because I probably need a new goalkeeper soon. And I'm eyeing up Pickford, and I don't know if I want to double on Everton defence. But given what Sam's done since he's come in, and 4.4 million, Kenny looks a great option. Masuaku is the one that I like. I saw him playing left mid probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I think maybe a bit sooner than that, but recently enough. And I really liked him. He just looks like a skillful player. I think he used to be a winger, which is why he looks so good going forward as well. 4.4 million in a double game week coming up, and I think if you've got players like Duffy still in your side, and you've not got that kind of bench fodder defender, and you can cover him missing out in game week 21, then he's the one I want. So I'm really looking at him. Watford have got nice fixtures, but I'm not sure about them right now in defence. So yeah, if I have to name one right now, Masuaku for me.
Okay, and Peter, cheap defenders to recommend.
Yeah, I mean, my entire defence is pretty much cheap defenders. I went Ogbonna over Masuaku, but that was purely because I could only afford him. I think there was a 0.1 price difference.
Is he 4.3 then, Ogbonna?
I think when I got him at 4.3, yeah. Right. I don't know if it's, so yeah, they've been mentioned. West Ham, I think, have got obviously some great fixtures ahead defensive-wise, and that's having just played some of the stronger teams and done very well. I suppose you do wonder whether they'll have the same mentality against some of the supposedly weaker teams. But having said that, you could argue that a double up is viable, possibly with Adrian. At Everton, you've mentioned Kenny. Holgate was one who I got rid of, and then, as I say, he started every game. I think he's been playing despite Jagielka being on the bench, despite other centre halves being on the bench. So of the two, I think Kenny is the better pick. And I will have to shout out my older student, Ben Chilwell. at Leicester, who I think some of you know. I taught not football, sadly. But what was interesting, I think, this week was he's been playing left back. Fuchs came back into the team this week, but he moved on and took Albrighton's place. So I think Chilwell's perhaps involved with a sort of 2 from 3 situation with Fuchs and Albrighton. And I think he's 4.3 possibly. He's quite creative, and if he can nail down that place, then he'll be great value.
Yeah, no, there's some good options. I mean, the first thing I did was look at the fixtures. So I went on our season ticker on the site and just switched to difficulty and got the easiest fixtures. On top of the pile from now until New Year is Huddersfield, actually.
Yeah.
So they're worth looking at. But the only caveat there, they've got 2 home games. They're very strong at home, and they've got 3 away. And whilst defensively they're okay, they've had a few clean sheets away, they have not scored away since game week 1 against Crystal Palace. So I tend to think that if sides are spending all their time defending, they're going to be conceding. So I'm a bit steering clear of that. But Watford are next up there. Then Stoke. Now, Stoke are very dodgy defensively at the moment, so probably wait and see for them. And then Brighton as well. So as Andy mentioned, Duffy is a great option. And then, of course, we've got West Ham. West Ham have a double game. So ones I was looking at, say Robertson as long-term as well. So Moreno's out for what looks like a few weeks, as in this run that I've just been mentioning, all the way up to the new year. He's had 10 crosses in his last year. That's quite good. That's pretty good. And 2 goal attempts, not bad as well. And good baseline bonus. He's cheap. So this is basically what you're looking for with these lot is clean sheets. But any hint of something else, like an assist or baseline bonus, these types of things, is good news as well. So Masuaku, I like him a lot. He's the one I've got my eye on, mainly because of a bit of early shopping for the double game weeks. A player you can easily bench in game week 21 when West Ham have a blank. And then potentially, he may get rotated, but potentially you've got him for 2 fixtures there. So he's had 5 crosses, good baseline bonus, 5 crosses in his last 2, and great fixtures, double game week, 4.4. Kenny, I've already owned. Me and Az will spend all day giving a John Joe Kenny lecture about how wonderful he is for his price. I mean, he's not, he hasn't got much more to him apart from the Big Sam clean sheets, but he's had a couple of chances last 2, 3 crosses, so that's nowhere near as good as Robertson there, but he might get you something. So, but he's just so cheap, and he's in a defence that's going to get you clean sheets. And of course, Duffy's been mentioned there. But yeah, I mean, Az, any further thoughts about these cheapy defenders?
Well, I had to make the decision this last week because I wanted to get Calvert-Lewin, and the only player who I really wanted to lose was Daniels, who has got had a pretty nightmarish run of fixtures. Got two more really roughs before they get all right again. So I was looking at around the 4.5 mark. I was looking at Masuaku, who I eventually got. Chilwell, who I think is 4.2 or 4.3.
Yeah, I think
yeah, and I just wasn't convinced that he was going to keep his place, because I thought eventually Fuchs is going to oust him, and Albrighton's been so consistent for them, and there was just a bit around this period. It's just a bit risky to get in someone like that who could potentially lose their place. But I think if you're looking for a punt and you've got a fairly decent squad, then I think Chilwell is probably the best pick of all of them, because if he can keep that left wing place, he's going to get points. I'm sure they're going to come. Sorry.
So no, I was going to say, yeah. You got another one then?
Yeah, and the other one was Joe Gomez, who I know didn't play this week, and I know all about Liverpool's defensive frailties. But
only way,
yeah.
Only way, obviously their home defense is fantastic, isn't it? So
yeah, only way, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I just don't trust a defence that's got Lovren in it. Was how I looked at it in the end. But yeah, home and that West Brom game. I mean, that just had clean sheet written all over it. So going forward, away games, you probably want to bench him. But I think Gomez, because he gets assists and he puts crosses in and he looks quite attacking when he plays. So yeah, I think Gomez is quite a strong option as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully we've given some. I think a lot of people, all these names are very familiar. Obviously, but hopefully we've maybe someone considering one of them, and one of these selection. Maybe Chilwell will come out favourably from that. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, moving on to the last set of community questions, as we've got a young man, Harold Kane, is being discussed yet again, and this stems from something we were talking about last week, where I was daring to suggest actually removing him the last time we met. During that time, he scored a brace and did absolutely nothing. So a lot of people are interested in where that plan's going. So yeah, Az, what question have we got on that?
We've got Speedy Boy ZZZZ who asks, what about that Kane selling plan? Is it still an option? Are we still going to go there? I mean, if you were thinking about selling him, then that Brighton blank, could have made up a few people's minds, because they've got a rough couple of games coming up. I mean, Man City away, Burnley away, then they've got that Southampton game, which could be lucrative, but then they've got a blank. So there is a case for selling him. It's just, what the hell would you spend the money on? That's my question. I mean, yeah, on midfield, I know, but then if you want him. I mean, we talked about this last week, but if you want him back, it's really difficult. Expected to lose. Expected to lose is the name of the guy who knocked me out in the cup. I hope it's not. I hope it's
It'll be
not
the same
him.
one. Yeah, he's come to taunt you.
Yeah, with his Ibrahimovic -8. Expected to lose says, many are contemplating getting rid of Kane for the next few, but does his security of starts make him worth the outlay in the time when there's lots of rotation? And Earthfan M66 says, with injuries hitting us hard this game week and other premium forwards and midfielders in rotation out of form, is the Kane plan now off?
Kane out plan, yes. Well, let's go for Peter on this one. You've got Kane. Are you going to? No, we detailed. He's got City away, Burnley away, toughies. Southampton home could be good. Then absolutely nothing. So he's got one good fixture in the next 4. Are you keeping or are you ditching?
I think I unfortunately have other issues to deal with. I think if I had a wild card now, then I was looking sort of at how you could distribute the funds. Obviously, there's the issue of how to get him back. But just as an example, I've currently got Kane, Speroni, Daniels and Loftus-Cheek. That could, for the same price, be Austin, David De Gea, Otamendi and Pogba. And to me, that, there's no comparison there. I get the whole, Kane's a captaincy option, hasn't been recently. But if you just look at that as a spread of, a combined point scorers, the second option is so much better. The issue, of course, is everybody's going to want him for game week 22. It's not worth, I think, doing the hokey cokey for the next 4 or 5 games to get him out, probably at a cost, and then back in at a cost. So I suspect with fires to fight elsewhere, I'll end up with keeping him in my team. I think if I had a wild card, I wish, I think he probably would be gone for the next few.
I was going to say, Granville's not here. Hopefully he'll turn up for a bit. But I was really shocked because he's one of the good things about his season has been his kind of bravery in not getting Kane, and he's been able to quite rightly laugh in our faces about it as we've been captaining Kane. And he's been captaining others and been spending his money on all sorts of other players. And to get Kane in now at this run of fixtures, I must admit, if I didn't have him now, I wouldn't. I do have him. But, Andy, what are your thoughts? You got Kane? Are you going to get rid?
Nah. I had the pleasure last week of watching instead of being on. And when you said it, I thought, there's no way you're going to do that. And then this week, I agree. Like, Burnley, Man City away, yes, of course he can score in those games, but you wouldn't want to be betting a lot of money on it. And then a blank. So the fixtures aren't great. But the problem I've got, excuse me, is that when I saw that Morata was injured last week, I looked at potentially getting him out, and I was like, who the hell am I bringing in? No forwards really are inspiring me right now. Obviously, you've got Firmino. You're possibly already regretting that. He could go on to do well, but I don't really want him. Vardy, maybe. Austin's got bad fixtures. There's just no one I want. So if I can't even get rid of Morata, I don't know who I'm going to sell Kane for. Lukaku potentially, but I'm just going to want Kane back for the double game week. So to me, it's like you say, there's not enough luxury transfers to be worrying about taking Kane out just to bring him back in. If you do get rid of him, you've got to spend that money. Otherwise, what's the point? I agree that potentially taking out Kane and redistributing the funds elsewhere, as long as you've got another couple of captain options, is probably the right way to go about it, as long as he doesn't suddenly go mad in the next few games. But it's just too many transfers. You can't spend those transfers. They're too valuable. So, no, basically. And I probably won't captain him until maybe Southampton. I don't think I'm going to captain against Man City, although I can see him scoring. Burnley, I never like captaining anyone to. So, but I'm going to keep him because I don't know who else to get in. I need to spend the money at some point. So I'm keeping him because I want him for the double game week, basically.
Yeah, and as you keeping or ditching?
I'm keeping, but if my team was in a slightly different shape and I didn't have Calvert-Lewin and I still had Pascal Gross, no, I do still have Pascal Gross. If this is another me and another, I've confused myself. Whatever. If I had the option of doing Kane and Gross to Sanchez and Calvert-Lewin, I think that could be a very profitable move over the next few weeks. I already have Calvert-Lewin, and there's no one else I want in the striker option, so I'm kind of out of that. But something like that, I can see the sense of it. What I can't see the sense of is people dropping Kane and bringing in like Lacazette, who plays 60 minutes sometimes because Wenger hates him for no reason, or I don't know, bringing in Rooney or someone who, and then strengthening the midfield but spreading your funds around. So you basically cut yourself off from getting Kane back at all. That to me isn't appealing. If there was a kind of a straight move that I could do, and Sanchez fits that bill because he's around the same price, then I'd be tempted. But I just don't want that spread of funds around my team.
That's
Well,
what we
I mean,
all
I
wanted
was
for 22, didn't we?
sorry, Peter. Yeah.
We do all want him back for 22. So for week 22. So it's how many transfers you have to make to get him out and then back in and distribute the funds. It's just not viable, I think.
Well, I think that's the clincher. So, I mean, I was the one advocating it, and I was set to do it, and part of me is still considering it. But the big game changer was Morata's injury, and I took that move to remove Morata from Firmino. I'm sitting with 2.8 million in my bank, and I actually don't know how to spend that at the moment, because one of the players I want is Pogba, and he's not available. And I want to be upgrading Loftus-Cheek, so I need a bit more really. But that was the clincher. The big game changer was Morata being out. Now, if Morata's back, definitely back, all guns blazing for this weekend, there is a temptation to get Morata straight back in for Kane, which actually doesn't seem that ludicrous because it's not distributing those funds widely, and it still gives me a Kane back plan. But I'm also thinking about game week 22. That's when you want him in. But you also, so I'm starting to think over the next few game weeks. Luckily, West Ham have good fixtures coming up. So I'm looking at players like Masuaku, maybe one of their midfielders, Lanzini perhaps, and maybe kind of getting a couple of them. Maybe looking at Son as well for that Southampton fixture. I don't know. These are the kinds of things I'm looking at. But I must admit, times have changed since that plan. And the Morata. Well, that's it. I mean, we saw Lukaku. That's as good as it gets for Lukaku. He's at home to Bournemouth, and he gets 1 goal and no bonus because all the bonuses hoovered up.
He must be knackered. Like seriously, he's played every single minute so far. I don't know when Ibrahimovic is going to start, but surely before New Year he's gonna come on. And
should. I mean, Lukaku's like this. It's like a really ancient Shire horse that Mourinho
doesn't move. He doesn't do anything
to death on the pitch every week. He's not moving because he's knackered.
You mentioned Pogba, though, haven't you? Pogba's where the value is for Man.
Mourinho's on the sidelines going, glue factory. Remember the glue factory? That's where you're going, mate. And he's going, okay, I'll move, I'll score, but don't give me any bonus. But that's it. That's as good as it gets. All that money, 6 points at home to Bournemouth. I mean, when he played my team, but Brighton at home, nothing. It just, and it's just for that amount of money you want much more. With Kane, yes, we have our problems with Kane, but he can score braces every now and again. And that's the good thing about that. But Lukaku's just not. And that's the thing. That's the big change, really, the Morata injury for me. So I've got lots of money in the bank now. That was the key thing of moving Kane. I was getting some money in the bank. I've already got that now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. It's kind of just taking the carpet away from that plan. But I don't know. I do ultimately think that over the next 4 game weeks, if someone's, I suppose, brave but also very good with a calculator, and they can work it out, and they've got a good plan to get Kane back in game week 22, I think they can really profit from that. I think they'll do well, but I don't know.
We think people, maybe just a quick here, but we think people perhaps use the free hit tip in 21. With Kane and co having Southampton, and then obviously the double, but nothing in between. Are we going to see people use that?
Is that your plan, Peter?
I don't think it will be, but I imagine that's how people envisage using free tip, perhaps in a busier game week, in a busier double and blank. But you can see how the fixtures pan out for Kane in that respect. I don't think I will be, but it's an option.
The thing is, it's like as of explaining the thing about getting Kane out. It's such a monumental move, and what you described there as well, it's like getting rid of it. It's using a chip. So once that's gone, and because this is the first season of free hit, we don't know how lucrative it can be. We've seen already it can be very, very lucrative, and it can be costly. But the consensus is to use it in a blank fixtures, and But for me, I just think there's going to be other game weeks where there's going to be even fewer teams, and there's going to be, you know, the rubbish ones like Stoke and Huddersfield and Brighton.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we might see some use it.
And I think I've got a vision of my free hit chip being used for that week when you've got all the dregs playing. You've got 6 fixtures. They're all hopeless team players you don't want. And you just load up on them, and then that can be really lucrative because, of course, all your good players aren't actually playing then. But I think you're right to think that, and I think cleverer people than me certainly, but perhaps all of us will do really well by using that free hit chip in that and using it really carefully, because that's the thing with Kane. Once you've got him out, tricky to get him back in. Free hit chip could be the way of doing it. So another thing, I just wanted to mention a final bit on Kane really. Kaiser Sosa, another of our regulars, he asked actually with Rooney firing. Now Rooney's got 9 goals now, which isn't bad considering he's an 80-year-old potato. And Firmino as well didn't do well this week, but he has had a brace in recent weeks. And Vardy as well is ticking along with it. He's basically saying, do we even need a premium striker? And as we mentioned with those midfielders, I think you've got a point there. So, I mean, Peter, just come back to you on that, because you mentioned about all the midfielders you want as well. Do you think that it could be a viable strategy? Just don't even bother with these premium forwards and just go all out in your midfield and get like Rooney in?
It can be. I mean, fantasy football is about changing tactics, isn't it, and being flexible. At the moment, we see the value in midfield. The question of how you get the players back in is the big issue, I guess. But I'm sitting with no team value with Salah, Hazard, and Coutinho in my team already, with Charlton. So it doesn't take an awful lot to upgrade those last 2 to 5 really decent midfielders, whether that's Pogba, whether that's a couple of the City boys. And I've got Kane and Morata at the moment. So, you know, I could certainly see myself surviving with one premium striker. Whether I want to go without any, I don't know. There's that comfort blanket, isn't there, of, you know, this is an expensive striker. He's going to get over 20 goals. He must do. And you don't necessarily look at value. You just think, you know, he's there for me. Kane, I think, for a lot of us, is that comfort blanket.
I think you've been playing for us. This is your 12th season now, and you're familiar with having 2 really good strikers most of the time. I would say over the 12 years, you've pretty much. Would you say you pretty much always had 2 premium strikers at least?
I think sometimes you've got generally yes, but I think sometimes you've got someone in the Firmino, Vardy price bracket who's doing the business. As I say, I think it's about being flexible. At the moment, the value is in the midfield. I'd be reluctant to go without at least one premium striker. But as you say, who is that premium striker at the moment? You know, you could argue there isn't one. So it's tricky.
Well, just finally come to you, Andy and Az, on this. Say you've got a wild card this week and you want to get one premium striker. Who would it be, Andy? Who would it be?
I think it'd still be Kane. I think.
With those
if you can guarantee me that Morata's injury-free and going to play, then it'd probably be Morata. If you can, I still probably want Kane because I know I'm going to want him back. I mean, yes, okay, I could go for Lukaku, I suppose, and leave money in the bank. I'm still setting myself up for another transfer. I mean, just really quickly, when I did have a look at getting Morata and Richarlison out if they were going to be out long term, and at that point, I looked at maybe going with just Kane and Calvert-Lewin up front and going for a big 5 in midfield. So I have looked at it, but it was still Kane that would be my sole striker.
I mean, the reason is one of on the live chat, someone, William Hopkins, has said using 4 transfers to move Kane out and then back in again 4 weeks later is a definition of insanity, he says. And he does have a point. But that's why I posed the question about that hypothetical one with a wild card, because some people do have their wild cards there, but also things like free hit chips as well. And there's also a lot of people without Kane at the moment. And I was just wondering, it's just, do we actually, is he really the best? I mean, this is just a sad state of affairs, I think, really, at the moment. But Az, what do you think? I mean, you can only get one premium striker in, and you've got maybe a wild card to use. Who would it be? Would it be Kane?
Well, if you define a premium striker as a striker over 10 million, would you say? Who is there? There's Morata, 4 yellows, injured, Chelsea aren't exactly free scoring. I know they got a couple of goals against Huddersfield, but they've been struggling a bit this season to score that many goals. And if you've already got Hazard, I think Hazard's a stronger option than Morata anyway. So do you really want to double up with those? I mean, I am. I'm not sure if that's wise. Lacazette, I've mentioned him getting hauled off at 60 minutes. Wenger doesn't seem to trust him. Jesus and Aguero. Aguero seems to be getting more minutes, but he's not exactly in great form either. He scored a couple of penalties and got a goal, the last night, but not in great form. And then you've got Kane, who is going to play every minute. They can't afford to rest him. They're one of the best attacking sides in the league. They seem to be getting over the Wembley curse. They beat Man City last year when I think Man City were looking really, really strong. They absolutely completely outplayed them. I think their kind of style of play affects City. I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs beat City at the weekend at all. And against Burnley, I mean, Burnley are amazing at home, but you wouldn't bet on away from home. You wouldn't bet on Kane scoring a couple of goals against Burnley. And then they've got Southampton, so I'm still going to stick with him, and I wouldn't advise selling him.
So we're looking, a broad consensus, despite Kane letting us down, ruining our seasons, captaining him, getting rubbish scores against all these terrible sides. He's still the best we've got. But anyway, so let's have a look at the next game week. We'll have a look at some clean sheets. And Peter, you guess. So you can go first. If you, where's
are we looking for value clean sheets, or are we looking
just the bet? Which side you think is going to get a clean sheet?
I mean, lots of the big guns have got the best fixtures this week, haven't they? You've got Chelsea with Southampton. You've got Arsenal.
If you could just pick kind of one, you're kind of.
I'm gonna have to say Everton, Swansea. Swansea reasonably tight away from home. Don't like to score goals. Everton obviously resurgent. Everton's the one, and obviously value in there as well.
No, good one. Az?
Yeah, Everton probably would have been my one. Looking at them, I've got a feeling the Brighton Burnley game is going to be 0-0. So I'll go for my boys, and I'll go for Brighton to get a clean sheet against Burnley. Informed Burnley versus strugglers Brighton. I think that's I think Brighton are going to keep a clean sheet.
I think that's likely. And Andy?
Yeah, I think Burnley in form but barely scoring goals. I'd say, I think Brighton's good. I'm not going to play Duffy this week, and I really want to. I'll take Arsenal against Newcastle.
Right, yeah.
I think they're pretty. Shoney there, Kolasinac, etc. I think they're going to do well.
I think there's absolutely loads of potential clean sheets this week.
Yeah.
I'll go for Watford because they're playing a side that hasn't scored away since they met Palace back in August 1804, whenever it was, months and months ago. So I think if you've got Gomez and if you're looking at some of the Watford backline, I think you're in for a treat. So we're looking at some Fantasy Island risks next. So I'm going to go for you, Peter, again, being very kind to you. So you've got a risky player to recommend.
I'm going to go with Forest reject, Mikel Antonio for West Ham against Stoke. I know he's not really on form at the moment, hence the risk. Neither of Stoke's defence. And I remember that run he had, particularly last season, playing in that advanced role, just scoring game after game, or certainly that's how it seemed. Antonio for me.
Yeah, good one. Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to go for. I never want to bet on Liverpool keeping a clean sheet, especially away from home. So I'm going to go for Defoe. I know there's obviously a chance he doesn't start, but he missed the last game and played the previous two. So I'm hoping there's a bit of rotation going on there, and he's going to start. And obviously, he scored that wonder goal the other week. So Defoe for me.
And Az?
What's Defoe's ownership?
It'll be low. I'm not going to pretend I know it.
I'm just interested because I think he's actually quite a good option. I mean, I know he's rotating a bit with Wilson, but he looks like he's.
Well, as Peter said, Liverpool's defence away from home is pretty. I mean, even knackered old Brighton who were getting trounced by him, managed to score against them. So it's a
shame he's got that run of quite tough games, or he could be a potential cheap striker, like we mentioned. I'm going to go for another wing back. I don't know how many wing backs I've picked in these risks this year, but I'm going to pick my boy Masuaku, who is 0.5% owned, 4.4 million. His heat map, if you go on the Fantasy Football site and go to the members area and check out his heat map. His heat map's pretty impressive from what I've seen. It well,
He's hot, is he?
He's hot. He's red
Oh,
hot.
very hot, red hot.
And against Stoke, and I think could do right.
Okay, well, mine's a West Ham player as well. Now, last week I got in a bit of trouble. West Ham fans suggesting that they were frequently under the cosh in danger of relegation. Obviously, they're still in the relegation zone at the moment, but I'm hoping they come out of it because they've got loads of cheap, really good players. The one I've gone for is got a double risk, and it's Arnautovic playing against his former club. And the big risk there is that he's already had a red card this season. He had a red card last season. He can be a bit temperamental. He doesn't take criticism kindly, and I don't think the Stoke fans are going to be too nice to him. So the big risk there is not necessarily he's going to score, whether he's going to get sent off. So I think he's either going to score a brace or he's going to get his marching orders. So
we need to get your average down a bit, John T. So hopefully he gets sent off.
I'm doing okay. I think it was Austin was the last time we convened or got an Austin goal.
Good.
Yes, I'm fingers crossed for Arnautovic to stay on the pitch and get the ball in the nets there. So yeah, on to our plans as well. And I'm going to be kind again, Peter. Go you first. So I mean, you've got a mountain to climb now in your ranking.
I'd like to know Peter's future plans as well.
Yeah. So what's your plan for this week, and how does it interact with what you're planning over the next few weeks?
Are you talking transfers?
Yeah, transfers. You kind of transfers and also your captain.
Okay. Well, at the moment, I am waiting on news, particularly on Richarlison and Morata. That'll be a game changer for me if either of them are ruled out for a period of weeks. I'll certainly stick with them if it's only going to be a game or two. The master plan was to upgrade Nias to Calvert-Lewin. I've got just enough money to do that. I'm very much on a shoestring at the moment, which means that I then have Coutinho, Salah, Hazard, Kane, Morata, who will hopefully start reading in some points for me. But if Morata's out, if Richarlison's out, then I'm going to be distributing those funds, looking at a stronger goalkeeper, perhaps upgrading Daniels as well. So yeah, hopefully just the one transfer this week. That would be nice. I'll actually be starting from 0 rather than -4, -8, which would be a novelty.
Oh, well, good luck with that. As well, you're. Oh, by the way, Peter, who are you going to be captaining?
This week, I think it will be Hazard, I suspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as your moves and captain?
Are you looking at getting City mids back in, Peter?
Yes, I will be. I don't think immediately, but certainly in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'll just ask because I need to get some C mids back in my side. I think my plan is to roll over the transfer this week because I had my moves. The moves I made last week were to kind of give me a bit of breathing space if I had some injuries, and if Richarlison's a doubt and Firmino's a doubt and Morata's a doubt, even with those 3 out, I can still field 11 quite decent players. So I'm hoping if one of those players can kind of pull through, then I shouldn't need to make a transfer, which would be quite nice. And then next week I'll probably look at shipping Coutinho back to a City mid, whoever catches my eye. So yeah, that's my plan. Captain, it won't be Hazard if Morata's out. It will be Coutinho. If Morata's back, then it'll be Hazard.
Very wise. And Andy?
Yeah, shout out actually, someone mentioned for cheap defenders, if he starts getting more game time, Luke Shaw, 4.9 million, straight in my team. Anyway, what we're doing this week. So I'm basically very similar to you guys. Richarlison and Morata are obviously the ones we're waiting for information on. I think Morata's going to be okay because he kind of said it was fatigue and then there was a back injury as well. And I don't know if that was just the kind of excuse to just give him a rest, but hopefully he'll be back. Richarlison would have to be out for a good while for me to get rid of him because there's no one in that price bracket I want. I don't have any money to upgrade him, so I'm really hoping he's fine or just out for one game week. And I've got Duffy against Burnley and me against Brighton, plus Loftus-Cheek on the bench, so I'm probably going to save the transfer. And in captain, I've got it on Salah. I'm a little bit worried that Klopp kind of said he had a niggle, but then he played. So now I've got it in my head. Okay, either he's fit or now he needs another rest. So I don't know. So I'm probably going to put it back on Hazard, which will be the 5th week in a row that I've gone between Hazard and Kane. So hopefully maybe 5th time lucky. I don't know how long you get on this.
Snap.
Yeah, awful.
Well, I mean, mine's very similar. At the moment, the way I'm set up, I've got Richarlison there, my 11. But my first sub is Duffy. And I really actually want to play Duffy. But because I've got Kenny and I'm going to play Otamendi as well, for me, I just think I've got Harry Maguire as well. So I benched Harry Maguire last week. So this is the problem of having a defence. I'm kind of expecting rotation. I'm not actually getting it when I want it. So I'm at the moment, I'm fine. I actually want, in a way, Richarlison to be out so I can play Duffy. So that equals really no transfer. I don't really need to. I've got 2.8 sitting in the bank. I think I can make better use of it game week 19 when Pogba's back. Now, Pogba, I think, is a good player over Christmas because he's going to play every game. Manchester United have good fixtures. I think he's only failed to have attacking returns in a couple of the games. He hasn't been injured or suspended. I just think overall he's 7.9. I just think he's an ideal Christmas present for my team. So I think I'm going to save it. And Hazard for me, and Salah's my vice captain. But I'm going to be listening very closely to Conte and Klopp's press conferences for those little hints about he's looking tired and we might get a rest. But I mean, Klopp, I thought, as you mentioned earlier, I thought Klopp was going to do that with Salah this time around, but not. But we've got a message just in from Mark actually, so he wants to tell us some of his plans as well. So yeah, like most of us, he wants to be captaining Hazard as well. Now his transfer could be Dunk to Kabasele. So he's thinking about doing a shift there from. It's quite the week to do it, but
that is a boring move.
It's really boring, but nevertheless, long term. But I'm not quite sure. My home game against Burnley is the time to shift Dunk out.
He's on the up though, Mark, isn't he?
Well, he is, and this is a bold one. Everyone's talking about Nick Pope. Not Mark. He wants to get rid of him. I quite like this move actually to Pickford. Burnley have got atrocious fixtures coming up. And Everton have great fixtures. I think Pickford's the new Pope.
Not this week.
Burnley's maybe not this week, yeah, but Burnley's next good home game is game week 28.
Yeah,
we've got to play all the big top six in between.
Yeah, I think this is the time to bow. Now I've got Ward injured, and I potentially want to be moving him out for Masuaku or another cheap defender there, or maybe upgrade him, maybe Phil Jones. And he says he's holding Morata and Kane. And he also says, have a good one. I'll try and listen to the final part. So he's possibly even listening now.
There is no way I'm selling Pope, by the way. No way. He's playing every game for me. He'll get a clean sheet in one of those games and get like 20 points. It'd be glorious.
Wow. So
Pickford's fixtures aren't amazing though either. You've got Chelsea, Man United, Spurs in the next like 6-ish, 7. Not fantastic.
Well, I mean, I've got Fabianski, and I do covet Pickford, and I did covet Pope, but I'm not quite so keen on those fixtures. But I've got 2.8 minutes. Everyone's talking about that De Gea chap, and about how none of us, apart from Granville, are mentioning him or putting him in our team. So that is a potential move I could make, but perhaps not this. So yeah, hopefully we've given everyone a nice bit of counselling for a bad game week. And Peter, I hope we've eased your sorrows and also had a chance to tell everyone about how marvellous your previous seasons were.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
But yeah, so everyone, thanks for listening and watching, and it's a goodbye from me.
Good night from me.
Good night from me.
And good night from me.